All right, so today we're going to talk about every runner's favorite topic, running shoes. And who doesn't like a little good shoe porn there? Let me set up my presentation here. So when we talk about running shoes, I understand why there's a lot of confusion out there, a lot of reasons why people might be confused with things. There's so much information out there. I mean, shoe manufacturers tell us something, then we hear something from running stores, and you get celebrity endorsements, and you read things in magazines, and you look on social media, and people are talking about, oh, I love this shoe, I love that shoe, and I don't even know if everyone understands why they might like or dislike a certain shoe, and that can lead to a lot of confusion. So I want to dispel some of the myths and get into some of the research surrounding these topics, and hopefully that'll help you sort out things as you are making your shoe selections to help you run your best. So we're going to look at the types of shoes there are and the characteristics of those shoes. We're going to look at what research tells us about shoe selection and what makes a good shoe versus maybe a less good shoe. And then we're going to talk about how to pick the shoes. I'll go through the tests that I do when I'm picking out a shoe and how I find shoes that are going to work for me. And hopefully that'll be able to help you out with your making your selections. So going to this slide is just that there are different types of shoes, and you probably want to use the shoe that's designed for the activity that you are participating in. So if you are a trail runner and you want to go out and run on the road, that's fine. You can do that. And if you want to participate in a race, that's fine. You can do that. But if you're going to start doing road races, then you probably want to invest in a road shoe. Conversely, if you have a pair of running shoes and road shoes, and they don't have a bunch of tread on them, they're not designed for trails, but you have a friend that says, hey, let's go run a trail. Yeah, you can go run a trail, but if you were going to start trail running regularly, it may be wise to invest in a pair of trail shoes for that purpose. So then the characteristics of running shoes. You want to pick a shoe, you want to understand what it is about the shoe you like. And so, everything makes shoes just a little bit different from each other. You have your weight, the size of the toe box, the space in there. You have your heel toe drop. You have your stack height and materials that the shoe itself are made of. If the shoe has actual lateral modifications, all those things can play into how the shoe feels. And it's important to know what you like, because people often fall in love with a shoe. They try on the right brand and they find a model that they like, and they wear it until it falls off, and they find, they go up buy another one just like it, and they wear that one till they've had enough of it, and they're looking for it again. And then all of a sudden the manufacturer changes the model just a little bit. They want to try their brand new technology foam, or there's some trend in the running industry that they want to emulate to try to up their sales, and all of a sudden now that shoe that was perfect for you, now it's ruined. And rather than knowing and being in love with a single shoe type or a single brand model, it's good to understand, oh, I like heavier shoes or lighter shoes, or I need a stability shoe, or just what kind of things make you comfortable with the shoe, so you know what you're looking for when you're trying them on before you even go to buy it. So the two big questions, the two big promises that I think we are looking for shoes are, I want to run better, I want to run faster, and I want to not hurt when I'm running. And so with all the progressions in technology, you would think that we would also see a decrease in running injuries, because that's the reason we probably put on shoes in the first place. Like going back to the first pair of shoes that was designed, it was, hey, if I put something under my foot, my feet don't get cut up and they feel a little better. And I think they've done that, but the rate of running injuries has not improved along with the improvements in technology. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the misconceptions or things that we used to believe, but maybe some of the more recent research is showing otherwise. So the big thing that we used to do was, if you had this type of foot, this was the kind of shoe you would need. And we tried exercise or shoe prescription based on the foot type that you had. And so you had stability shoes, motion control shoes, and neutral shoes, all designed depending on how your foot fit to control the amount of overpronation you had. And first, that's a misnomer because nowhere has it ever been defined on what overpronation is, because pronation itself is a natural movement that we need to run. And so that concept was flawed in the first place, and there haven't been any studies that have connected pronation to actual injury. It was more of an assumption. And so Napick in 2009 in the what journal was that? Napick in 2009 in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning showed that it wasn't effective in reducing injury using foot type to prescribe shoes. And then again in 2014 in the journal JOSPT, it did another study, and again they found that it wasn't effective at all. So we move on from there. Minimalist shoes got really big not too long ago. Barefoot running, people were getting into that. The idea was that we should be running more natural, more the way our anatomy was intended to be, and it made a lot of sense. I was very big on board with that. I like a lot of minimalist style shoes, but if we're looking for them for injury prevention, it may not be the right thing. Ryan in 2014, the BJSM, British Journal of Sports Medicine, they found that minimalist shoes actually increase the risk of injuries. And Grier, if I'm pronouncing that right, in 2016 in the American Journal of Sports Medicine, they looked at over 1,000, it was like 1,300 soldiers in the Army, and they found that running with minimalist shoes made no difference one way or the other. And you can also look at this picture here on the right from the Bartold Clinic, Bartold Clinical, which that guy knows his stuff about shoes. If you're looking to really deep dive into shoe characteristics and what the research is saying, I would check out his website. He's got a bunch of stuff, but his conclusion there is that it's neither good nor bad, and that it's not going to benefit or hurt your patients. There are other things to be looking at besides minimalist shoes. So then we go on like, well, if minimalists didn't do it, we need to cushion our shoes. We want to really hyper cushion. The Hoka's came out, and maybe that will reduce injuries. And so Thiessen in 2014 in the British Journal of Sports Medicine, they found that cushioning made no difference in injury rates. And then Malisu in 2019 in the American Journal of Sports Medicine, they did find that it reduced injuries a little bit, but it was more for lighter runners than for heavier runners. And so you look at, well, why? Cushioning, it makes sense. If you have this cushion there, it's going to protect you from hitting as hard, and that should help you out. But going all the way back to 1987, Nigg in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that cushioned shoes, the more cushioning there was, it actually had increased peak impact and increased loading rates with the increased cushioning. And then you say, well, why would that be? And the thing you have to realize is that we are more than just a stack up on this shoe that is carrying us. It's a whole system that's controlled by our little supercomputer between our ears. And the brain is taking all the information with every step we take, and it's processing that, and it's trying to come up with the most efficient, beneficial strategy for running that it can come up with. And so Kamala, in 2018, he found that increased cushioning in the shoes actually increased the leg spring stiffness and impact loading through the leg. And so that may explain why it doesn't, just because you add cushion to the shoe, it doesn't reduce the risk of injury. We're not hitting any softer when we do that. So what can we do? How can we use shoes to reduce risk of injury? And again, so we've got some more bad news to start with. So Stubbs in 2006 in the International Journal of Sports Medicine, they found no improvement even if they did like a full screening of the lower extremity for strengths and weaknesses and tried to prescribe shoes by that. That didn't work out. Warbetz in 2014, he found no improvement with gait analysis. In fact, the group that got a gait analysis before their shoe was prescribed, they actually had more higher injury rate. But the good news is that Niggs in 2014, British Journal of Sports Medicine, had propose two concepts: the comfort filter and the preferred movement path. And the idea there is, again, talking about how your brain works on this, finding the most efficient pattern, and that you naturally fall into this cycle of what's going to work for you, what's going to be the most efficient. And the shoe that supports that and doesn't try to fight that and force you into something that is counterintuitive, counterproductive for yourself, that's going to be the shoe that's best for you. And so what they're recommending, and this is probably the best evidence we have to go on now, is that find the shoe that fits you comfortably, and that's going to be your best shoe for reducing your risk of injury. And no one else can tell you, like, going by the way your foot, the way your shoe fits, or your gait mechanics, or the foot type, and none of that is going to matter as much as just, do you like the shoe? Does it feel good? And so I'm going to go through at the end of this presentation. We're going to go through the tests to look at, to help you identify the shoe that's going to be comfortable for you, and put it through some tests that are going to help set you up for some success. Also, good news, Malisu in 2015 looked at shoe rotation and just alternating shoes. So you have two pairs of shoes, you wear one run, the next run you run the other pair, and just rotating through them. And he found that doing that reduced the rate of injuries by 39%, which is huge. So that's something I recommend all my runners do, is at least have two pairs of shoes. You saw my collection of shoes there. I've got more than that. I'm usually rotating through 3 or 4 different shoes at a time. You don't have to, that's not necessary for everybody. Some of that's my professional curiosity and wanting to try things out. But at least have 2 pairs of shoes, rotate through them. The idea is, if you have that preferred movement path, it's going to expand your capacity for tolerance of variance within that movement path. And so that's where you're going to get the advantage with the shoe rotation. So then the next thing goes into performance. And you've got our magic shoes over there, the Nike Next Percent, the Vaporfly Next Percent. Kipchoge just broke the record. He had the Alpha Flies, the newest model. Keep in mind that his model is going to be a little different than what's going to be on the market there. Like, that shoe was specifically designed and modified for him. But Nike's doing some really sharp stuff. Again, talking about Bartold Clinical, his website, he's done a bunch of analysis on the Nike Next Percent and the advancements that they've done on that, and how groundbreaking it is. And it's really sharp. And so if you look at the study from Hukamer, if I'm pronouncing that right. It was in 2018. They did a study, and they were looking at the prototype for the Nike Vaporfly 4%. And what they found was that reduction in weight, increased stiffness, and increased cushioning resulted in all these improvements in running effectiveness, and which running effectiveness directly correlates with your performance in running and running faster. So it's not that 4% doesn't mean you're going to run 4% faster, but the improvement equals improvement. And so that's where the 4% came from. For the name of the Nike Vaporfly 4% that actually came out, was the 4% running effectiveness improvement. So if you break that down, and it's a pretty expensive shoe to buy, so you don't have to just go out and get that. That's not the only shoe, but some of the characteristics of that shoe, if you're looking for a performance shoe, would also be worth looking at. So the first thing was weight. And Hukamer, again, this was in 2016. He was looking at adding weight to shoes, and what they found was that for about every 100 grams, which is about 3.5 ounces, every 100 grams that the shoe was increased, it decreased the running effectiveness by about 1%. So something to consider whenever you are picking out running shoes, finding something that's a little bit lighter so you can run faster in it. But that doesn't mean that a pair of heavy shoes doesn't have an advantage. A heavier pair of shoes might protect your feet a little bit better. It may give you that extra conditioning while you're wearing them, and then whenever you put on your lightweight shoes for racing, you feel just a little bit faster, a little bit quicker, because you're so used to carrying that heavy shoe, and now you've got that lightweight shoe and you can just take off. So I'm not battling. I still think that there is a place for your traditional trainer shoe that has a little more mass to it. But if you're interested in performance, then lightweight has its advantage. Also, Fuller in 2016, they looked at reduced mass and it improved times in the 5K. So next was the stiffness. And if we look at Roy in 2006 and the Medicine and Science and in Sport and Exercise, they were looking at midsole stiffness, and they found that there was a 1% running effectiveness improvement with that. And the mistake I see a lot of whenever I'm reading articles on the Nike shoe is people think it's a spring. It's not fair because that carbon plate in there, which is adding increased stiffness, it's acting like a spring and it's pushing the runner along. And that's not what it does. What it really does is add increased stiffness. So as you're pushing off, it's not, that force isn't getting lost. And so it works as a lever rather than a spring. And then when we look at cushioning, Warbets in 2014 in Footwear Science, they found a 1.2% improvement in running economy with the cushion on there, and that was 9 of the 12 subjects. So it doesn't work for everybody. Not everybody in their group it showed these improvements, but 1.2% was the average improvement, and most people were better with a little bit of cushion on there. And one of the things they're saying about the Vaporfly is that this foam that Nike has developed has really made a big difference with saving the energy as you go along, and that's really where a big part of their improvements come from. But there's some caveats to performance. There's a study, and this is pre-peer review. It hasn't been published in any journals yet, but I came across it from Hebert Lossier and his associates, and it showed that that Nike Next Percent might not be beneficial for everybody. They looked at recreational runners, and only 29% of those recreational runners saw an improvement wearing that Nike shoe. So something to consider with that. Another thing that I think about that, and this is with my own experience with it, I like the shoe. It fits me well. I run well in it. I run just as fast as I do any other shoe, but I also don't run any better in it than I do any of my other lightweight racing flats. So what I found with myself fits in line with that, but I'm a very middle of the pack runner. We've got some other runners with On Target who are down at like the Boston qualifier level, and that you can see with several of the measurements we take that they are clearly more effective with their running, and that the shoe just helps them go faster. So something to consider. Another thing I'm concerned about with it is that it's a $250 running shoe, and most of us, we're not going to be able to afford to get that shoe and put all our training miles on it and have it wear out on us before we even get to race day. And we're probably going to save that for race day. And you run a little bit differently in it, like it makes your muscles feel differently. So if you're training in your regular shoes and then you put that shoe on, and if you feel lightweight, you feel like you're moving along faster, but in the long distance there, are you really prepared for that? Are those muscles that are being used just a little bit differently, are they still going to be prepared for the final miles in your marathon? And I don't know the answer to that for sure, but it's something to consider if you're thinking about that shoe. But we talked about comfort and reducing injury risk. Comfort may also have a benefit to performance. Lau in 2009 showed a small 0.7% difference, a small but significant difference in running effectiveness with picking more comfortable shoes. But for that may not be true. More recently, Lindorfer in 2019, she did a study, and her group found no difference, no significant difference anyway, with comfort levels, although they said more research needs to be done. So it'd be interesting to see what comes out in the future, and if comfort can be used as a filter to help us identify what might help you with performing better. So selecting the right shoe for you. There's three things I look at this. I want to prepare, I want to inspect the shoe and look for defects, and then you got to try the shoe and put it through some tests, put it through the ringer to make sure it's doing what you expect it to do, and that it just fits you right, and it's going to last you later into your training and still feel good on you. So inspection, actually going back, so the preparing, you want to make sure that you're wearing your actual running socks. If you're going to wear a pair of shoes, because I've got a set of shoes that have a Gore-Tex liner in them, that's more of a wintertime shoe for me, I'm going to wear my thicker socks with that. If I'm wearing my lightweight shoes that have like mesh lining in them, I know I'm wearing those more towards the summertime. I'm going to wear my thinnest sock with those. Or if I'm wearing my triathlon shoes, I'm going to try them on barefoot. I don't want to, just feel like, oh, I need to wear a sock to try this on. Try it on, prepare it the way you're going to use it. You should be wearing it in the afternoon or evening because your feet are probably going to swell up, which they will probably also do later into a run. So it makes sense to prepare yourself or to test it under the conditions where it might be the most, your feet are going to be the most swollen. Make sure you have enough space to accommodate that. And then if you wear orthotics and you run in them, make sure you bring them with you to try on the shoes, whether you're going to the store or if you're trying them on for the first time, if you have a mail order. But wearing the orthotics, if you're running in them, you should be trying them on with them because they take up space too. So inspection, I got this from Chris Johnson. He's the one who I picked this up from, and most of this test I think he got from Wilk, who had an article in 2010 in the JOSPT, and it's really looking for defects in the shoe, because just because you get a shoe brand new doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect. These manufacturers, they'll admit that shoes have mistakes, and most of the time running stores will accept shoes back. They'll accept returns if you identify a defect before you've put a bunch of miles on it, and the manufacturer will usually take it and replace it, and they'll make it right. So just got a pair of Saucony A9 to replace my Ultra Vaporfly, or not Vaporflies, the Ultra Vanish. I thought it looked sharp. It looked like it would fit all the qualities I need. Super lightweight. Wanted to branch out a little bit. I've never tried Sauconys before, so I wanted to try it. So when I get the shoe, I want to stick my hand inside and run my fingers all around through there, check around the tongue, and I'm looking for any spots that jump out that might catch my foot in a funny way. I don't want to go out on a 20-mile run and come back and have my feet all bloody because there was a spot on the inside of the shoe that was wearing on it. So those feel good. Next, I do a brake test. I'm going to hold the shoe this way, and I apply a longitudinal load there, and that's looking for the stiffness. And I'm also looking for that break point in the shoe, which I want to be right under the ball of the foot. When I got these shoes, I saw that they had these two breaks in the sole. One was up here by the toe, and the other one was back here by the midfoot, and I was concerned that they were going to break in the wrong spot. But no, they have a really nice break point. It's right under the ball of the foot. I want to check that on both shoes, the right and the left, to make sure that they are even and that the materials in the midsole are working the way they're supposed to. Next, I want to do a twist test and look at the torsional stability. Again, when we talked about performance, a stiffer midsole had better performance because you lose less energy as you're pushing through. So I just give it a twist, and I'm looking at what kind of qualities it has there. We said a stiffer midsole does have better performance, but some people like a really lightweight, pliable shoe. They like the way it feels on their foot. And so if that feels good for you, I'll go for that. But when I was talking at the beginning about identifying the characteristics of a shoe that you like so that you can replicate that when you look for future models, that's the kind of thing I'm looking for is, oh, that shoe, oh, this shoe reminds me of that other shoe I had that felt really good. It has about the same amount of stiffness. That's something I like. So something we're looking for. Again, do that on both shoes to make sure it's even. And then we turn the camera around here. Next, I'm going to do a rock test. Actually, I'm going to observe it too. So I line up my shoes there, and I'm looking at the heels to make sure that they are even. Sometimes you might have a shoe that is produced in a way that it's like turned up, or they just won't match up. You'll see that it's not symmetrical. So that looks pretty good. The other thing I'm looking for is that it's straight up and down here. I like this, the center of the shoe is there, that the upper of the shoe wasn't placed onto the lower part of the shoe on the midsole at a cantered angle, because that can be a problem. Like I said, these Sauconys are replacing my Ultra Vanishes. And my Ultra Vanish, this is not how they came. They used to be a nice solid shoe, but as we've gone along now, and I've got probably about 400 miles on these at this point, you can see that the left is angled a little more than the right, and both of them have turned in beyond where they used to be. You can also see like how much the left shoe is turned up versus the right shoe. I'm not sure you can 100% see that, but you get the idea. So I would observe that if this was a brand new pair of shoes, I would say that's no good. Let's switch those out for another pair. So that's one test, is just to observe that and look for symmetry in that position. Next, I'm going to do the flick test. And so I just do a little tap on the front of the shoe there. So I'm just tapping the toe. I'm just doing a little tap like that. And then I watch the heel to see how the shoe stabilizes. And you see when I tap the right foot, it's coming down and it's stabilizing pretty quickly. When I tap the left shoe, it's got just a little more wobble on there. And again, that's because these have been worn for 400 miles, and that's where they've broken down to, and that's why I was ready to replace them. And they don't feel as crisp and comfortable as they used to. But if I switch them out for my Sauconys, I do a tap test on that, and you see how well they stabilize in that position. So, and I like that they both responded evenly. And then the other one is I do a rock test. So I'm going to put pressure down into the shoe, and I'm going to rock it side to side and make sure that's stable there. Rock that one side to side and see that it's stable there. And I like they both feel very even on that. Yeah. Let me switch this around, trying to get the camera back around. There we go. So also interesting, talk about the brake test and longitudinal stiffness. So this is the Nike Vaporfly 4%. We talked about finding that brake pattern. It doesn't have a brake pattern, right? I press on it and that carbon fiber plate is keeping it there. So whenever I roll on this, the force comes through and it propels me, or it lets me lever off the whole foot. Whereas if I'm running in this shoe, it's going to bend there and then I push off that way. So just something to consider. That's one of the things that makes this shoe so different than a conventional running shoe. So that's the inspection test that I like to go through. Excuse me. So finally, now we're ready to actually test it, try the shoe on. And so you want to fit the shoe to the longest toe on the longest foot. My left foot is a little bit bigger than my right foot. My second toe is my longest toe. So that's the one that I'm really assessing by. And then even before I put the shoe on, if I can take out the insole, I want to take that out and I'm going to step on it. And I want to stand up on it because your foot will spread as you put weight on it. So this is the insole for my Ultra. And when my foot fits on it, it fits real nice. I've got a little bit of room at the toe. I've got a little room at the side. Again, this is with the weight of my foot on it, so my foot can spread out on there and make sure that it all fits inside of the insole there. If I marry that up with the Saucony, I was really disappointed because I was super excited about it. I like the way the shoe looks. I liked it past all my inspection tests there. But when I held up the midsole, I see it's a little more narrow than the heel, which I'm okay with. I don't have a really narrow heel, but I do like the space in the Ultras in the forefoot, and it's hard to see it black on black with these insoles. But they don't match up here at the toe. The Ultra's bigger, and out here at the pinky toe or the baby toe there, the fifth metatarsal, it's bigger on the Ultra. So I was concerned that was going to fit tight. And when I tried on the shoe, it was tight. So that was the first hit against them on when I tried that shoe on, or whenever I was lining it up against the insole. So put the insole back in. Try on the shoe, make sure it fits to the biggest toe on the biggest foot, and then you want to wiggle your toes around. You want to splay your toes and make sure that you've got room to let that all move around in there. Then I like to do some hop, skip, and jump. So get on one foot, jump from foot to foot, do some skipping, do some jumping, like lifting your feet up high in the air. See what it feels like to really load through that shoe and get a hard impact on that. And then I like to do some balancing, standing on one leg and reaching out, do some dynamic balancing. Just feel how stable that shoe feels for you. See what you like, see if it's comfortable. The Nike shoes, I call them moon boots because the foam on there is it's so soft. I had a hard time balancing on it. It's not a deal breaker, but it's just something to notice. I would not like that on any of my other racing flats. That's one of the things I like about the Sauconys and my Ultras, was that I really feel connected to the ground when I wear them. And then you want to get some running in. You want to actually get out there and do a little bit of running. If you're in a store, see if they'll let you go up and down the street. And see what the return policy is too, because you may get out and do your first mile, maybe it feels great for your first, just going up and down the street, but when you hit mile number 5, all of a sudden you don't like them, or you don't like how you feel afterwards. And so that's the test I run them through. And if you do all of that, you've inspected them, you make sure it's a quality shoe, there's no defects, you run it through the ringer, you make sure it's well fit for your feet, you can move your toes around, your foot matches the insole, then you should have a good pair of shoes. Last thing is the lacing matters. And this was what made the difference for me. So I talked about the Sauconys, and I didn't like the insole. My foot was just on the edge of being a deal breaker. Like when I put my foot on it, my pinky toe was just at the edge of the insole, and it just made me nervous about it. When I tried the shoe on, it felt really tight, but then I noticed that there was some bunching up at the outside of the eyelet there, and just the way that it was wrapped up there, I was like, oh, that's not going to be good. So I went online and I looked up different lacing methods, and for a wider forefoot, this was the recommendation, was to, instead of crossing it down at the bottom, was to just do the bar across, work it up, and then cross. And so I tried it on that way, and it made all the difference. It felt great for me. And so that's going to be the difference in what gets me to keep that shoe. And if you want to look for a good video on different lacing techniques, Simon Bartold over at the bartoldclinical.com / lacing, he has a great instructional video there you can check out. You can also look online. If you just Google running shoe lacing solutions, you'll find a bunch of different selections there that you can try out depending on what your issue is, and that can make a difference for how a shoe fits. So definitely worth trying out, especially if you bought a pair of shoes because you got a good deal on them and you want them to work. If that's going to be a deal breaker, it's definitely worth giving it a try. But I go with foot comfort first. I can't emphasize enough, a shoe should feel good, and it shouldn't be trying to force you into a pattern or a way of moving that isn't natural to you. So I did a good bit of research on this. I'm going to pause on each of these so you can take a look at the studies that I'm referencing there. as I was going through the research, Nig is a big name in this field. He and Malisu, there's a lot of research done by him and his team. And again, beyond research, just chrisjohnsonpt.com, fantastic resource for all things running. And if you really want to get into shoe wear, then bartoldclinical.com is a great place to stop and check out. You can also check him out on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and he's constantly putting out good information. Really impressed with the stuff he's putting out. So I hope that was helpful and this information will be useful to you.